Culture is loud. It tells us who to be, how to think, what to value, and often its message is in direct conflict with what God says. For many of us, the tension is real. How do I bring my faith into spaces that don't share it? How do I stand for truth without being written off as irrelevant or worse, judgmental? A 2022 Barna Group study found that nearly half of young adults say they struggle to integrate their faith with their work and social lives. Many feel like they live two separate identities, one for their spiritual life and one for their cultural life. But the danger is that when faith gets compartmentalized, it loses its power to transform. The truth is, God never called us to hide. Jesus said, "We are the light of the world, not just in the church, but everywhere." That means faith should shape how we show up, even in industries, conversations, and cultural spaces that may not understand it. Today's conversation is about what it looks like to hold onto your convictions while engaging culture with relevance and grace. And my guest has been living that tension with authenticity and boldness. My guest today is an author, creative, and cultural thought leader who is as committed to his faith as he is to his craft. Enitan Bereola has been celebrated for reshaping conversations about identity, relationships, and culture through his best-selling books. He has also been honored with multiple awards, including nomination for an NAACP Image Award. He's been featured in outlets like Essence, CNN, and HuffPost. Now, beyond the accolades, he's a husband, a father, entrepreneur, and a man of faith who has navigated the cultural spotlight without compromising his convictions. And today, he's here to share his journey and help us understand what it looks like to embody faith in the midst of culture's noise. My brother, how
What's
are you
up?
doing?
I am blessed in real time. I'm grateful again to just, to convene like this. We met in such a cool
Yeah.
way through
Yeah.
Alfred Edmonds, Black Enterprise, and
Mhm.
it's beautiful, right? Like I told you before that my wife had heard your name and did some
Yeah.
research on you prior to us even
Which is
meeting. And when
crazy.
when your name came up again, I was like, actually, I brought your name up to her, and she was like, "Wait, this no." I was literally just googling her the day before. So the way that God brings and molds and shapes things together is
Yeah.
just it's beyond me. It's divine, and it's a pleasure and an honor to just walk in his path and to be
Yes.
aligned. So I'm happy to just converse and kick it. Have a conversation.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's so many things that I love about you, and even in the time that we've gotten to know each other, like I really genuinely have felt like you've just become a brother so quickly. And your authenticity, your humility is just amazing to me, considering all that you've done, all that you have been allowed to do through the grace of God. I want
Hmm.
to start. Let's go back before the accolades, before the
Hmm.
books, before the influence. What did your faith journey look like in its earliest days?
Wow. I mean, I come from, my father was a minister. So we were like, up in the church, freaking 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., sir, all the services, right? And I'm a child of divorce as well. So we went to two different churches, right? So I was
Mm.
kind of always involved in church. I played the drums growing up. I think it was middle school through the beginning of college. So I was ingratiated in faith culture and church culture, but the relationship with God is always a personal one.
Mm.
There's you're not I'm not going to be hanging on to my parents' coattail as they enter the gates of heaven, right? It's my personal relationship. So my faith journey was like I was there and I was present and I loved the music. You can't get past Baptist music. You're gonna be choirs doing all their little routines and dancing. So you get caught up in the in the show, and I would usually tune out when the pastor spoke because I was a kid. I'm playing with my
Mm.
siblings. However, I do recall a time where we went to this church camp, and there was this young lady who I mean, she's not even a young lady. She was a young girl. She was like 13 years old, Latina woman, young girl, and she gave this sermon, right? Like I've never seen someone so on fire. She was just like when you meet someone that is just other, she was just completely on fire. Like we were kids, we love God, but we still kiss girls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we still did all the things, but she was convicted in a way as if she's seen God herself. So
Mm.
she was very compelling to listen to. And she was just up there shouting and sounded like a sister. And like, it's like, who is this young girl up here on fire for Christ? And I remember, during the altar call, she was just kind of freestyling. It wasn't even a prepared sermon, but she was on fire and knew the Bible. And during the altar call, I felt this thing that I'd never felt before. I'd see in church when women would fall out and men would pass out. And I was like, what is this? I didn't understand it. I would look at my dad and he kind of smirk. So I was like, I don't know if I should take this seriously or not. But I felt this overwhelming presence that I could not explain. It was physical, like I could physically feel it, but it was ethereal and unearthly. And it started to just consume me and it
Mm.
washed me. And I was like on the floor. And I finally was like, wow, I actually had an encounter with the Holy Spirit. And that was the first day that I really kind of was like, maybe there is something to this God that my
Mm.
parents revere, that I pray to before my food, that I think I believe in, though I can't see, can't
Yeah.
hear audibly, can't touch. Um, but something happened to me. Pardon me. Something happened to me as a skeptical kid, generally a skeptical kid, and I felt something and I had an encounter that I couldn't quite explain. So
Mm.
it was the onset to my faith, and I kind of awaited for that moment to happen again, and to God's grace, it did. There was this San Francisco Christian Center was a church, and I played the drums, so we would travel to different churches, and I remember, that same young lady was there. It was good. They must have
What?
invited it was years later, yeah, she was there, and, a similar thing happened. She gave her sermon, this time to a
Wow.
church, and I had some friends with me that I brought, right? Because I lived my life. I was a cool kid and all that, but I still was a man of faith, a young man of faith, and not a lot of people knew that, right? I kind of was. It was like my church thing, and then there were my friends, right? I kind of separated
Sure.
church and state, church and culture. So I brought some so they could just get a foretaste without me having to preach down to them and all that. And, I remember one of them raised their hands to go up for the altar call, and I just went up there with them in support. Next thing I know, I'm same thing happens, washes over me, I'm on the floor. Um, this time I'm, like, speaking. I've never spoken tongues before, I'm speaking in tongues. It was just a whole other what is happening to me, right? And you hear these stories and you witness and experience these things, but when it happens to you,
Mhm.
there's no coming back from that. Like, you can't convince me any differently, and since then, I've had several encounters and experiences. It's just my level of awareness and my faith that allows those experiences to reveal themselves. So, those are some of the early kinda experiences I've had, in the faith.
So whew, um, I think it's so amazing that before you had the platform, before you had, the businesses and all these things, the
Mhm.
Lord revealed himself to you so that you know that he is real.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm curious, take us through your path, like your journey. And how did the Lord continue to show himself to you as you're starting to build influence, as you're starting to, because I'm curious, and this is let's start here. At what point did you begin to make the shift? Because I think you were always in the church, you're always in that space, but when did you start to make the shift into culture? When did that happen?
Always. I'm a '80s baby, so you know what I mean? I remember when LL Cool J and Two Live
Mhm.
Crew first entered our household. I was a kid, I didn't understand it. It felt good. I remember I Need Love,
Yeah.
my radio,
Mhm.
um, Two Live Crew. I won't say the lyrics, but I was reciting them as a child only because my older siblings would like laugh. I kind
Yeah.
of would get attention and they would laugh, and I didn't really know what they were talking about. And I remember my brother got in trouble because I was like We want some Kool-Aid.
Yes,
We
yes.
yeah, Kool-Aid. I substituted the word, and my mom was like, she recognized, she's like, "Who's been, giving you this
Right?
music to listen to?" So I came up when hip hop was very young. It was just kinda
Mm,
just getting started, and, I gravitated towards it because it was this form of expression and this cultural kinda new conversation that, um, it felt accurate, it felt honest, it felt authentic, and it felt like I could connect to it in a way that wasn't, it wasn't really consistent with things I was seeing on TV. It wasn't consistent with things I was seeing on the media, right? Like you watch films and such these days, you watch Home Alone, anything, and you'll be like, "Where are the black people?" Like, was this life when I was a kid? Like, so, I've always kind of gravitated towards culture in that way. We kind of have cultivated cool as a people, and it was all around me from my grandfather to my father to my uncle. It just that kind of cool and that culture was around me, so I was always a part of it. You know what I mean? I always embraced it, and I say I kind of it grew up with me, and I grew up with it, and it became more tokenized and popularized in terms of the culture. Even that phrase these days, we all kind of know what we're referring to, but back then it didn't necessarily have a name, right? And I adopted some of the ideas being from the Bay Area, from California. Unfortunately, a lot of the culture is rooted in pimp culture just historically, and it's embedded and ingrained in the music and saturated in the music. So unfortunately, you have this sprinkling of lyrics and ideas that are just poured onto the culture of the Bay Area. So that's how you have, rappers and slang and things that we adopt that aren't necessarily healthy, but and we don't even necessarily subscribe to that lifestyle, but because of um, the cultural symbols and accoutrements, we're just ingratiated with that, and it becomes, rubs off on us. So, I kind of always had like one foot in, one foot out, so to speak. I was
mhm.
aware, I had my ear to the streets, I knew how to maneuver in any environment, but at the same time, my parents, I kind of had like this or let's not say Cosby, let's say Huxtable,
Yeah.
kind of childhood where it was like peaches and cream and sunlight to me, even though my parents were divorced, they really established a great home. They established, you know, just importance in education, and what people call etiquette was just what I knew to do in order to not get a spanking. So I didn't even have a title for it. But folks would always compliment my siblings and I to my parents about our behavior whenever we'd
Mhm.
be with them, and I didn't get it. I was like, Everybody's supposed to act like this. I don't understand." Um, but I always had this connection, again, growing up in the church, but coming home and listening to 106 KMEL in the Bay Area, for hip hop and R&B, watching Yo MTV Raps, watching Rap City, The Basement when BET was pretty new. Watching all of these things, being a fan of the NBA and watching the NBA struggle with its identity because it was, nurturing all these black athletes, but they had to kind of, wear suits and dress it down until finally there was a little bit of a shift and a breakthrough. So I was a part of all of these moments where culture was trying to emerge and establish itself
Mhm.
until it finally became what it is today. I was a part of that entire thing, growing up. So um, it's just always been like, culture on one side, Christ on
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah. So walk us through, you graduate from college. Kinda
hmm
walk us through the career path that led to where you are today and what the journey
So
was.
interestingly enough, I didn't graduate. I left FAMU with 7 credits left.
What?
You talk about a leap of faith. I had 7 credits left. I was fed up with um, just the way financial aid was ran at the time. Long story. I went in there. I had a request. It wasn't honored. I threatened, "Hey, look, one day you're gonna regret, you know, not making this decision because I know to you I probably sound like some random kid who's asking for some favor, but I'm telling you now, that there will be publications, there will be articles, there will be
Mm,
moments where you want to say he was one of mine. He's one of
mm.
ours. He comes from FAMU, and in my arrogance, ignorance, and pride and bitterness, I said, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna claim you all. You know what I mean? Almost like,
Mm.
in Matthew 7:21, 23, where
Oh,
Jesus is
yeah.
like,
Yeah, "Depart
remember when
from
he
me,
says to me,
Satan."
Lord, Lord, is gonna enter the kingdom
Right.
of heaven, like get away from me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was on that type of time. And it's interesting that that moment actually did come to fruition, but long story short, I left and I pursued this opportunity to write because I had a mentor of mine who suggested that my lifestyle was marketable. I thought that was a weird. I didn't really understand what he
Mhm.
was saying. This is 2006, and he was saying that I've observed you and I see kind of how you maneuver, how you treat people, how you do things. I think what he was saying is like kind of like the impetus of this interview, like you believe in Christ, but you also live in this culture, and
Yeah.
you somehow are able to do these things in a way that's interesting. So I think you should find a way to communicate that through a book, maybe a lifestyle book, maybe an etiquette book. I was like, what? But because of the belief I had in my mentor, I pursued it. I jumped out the plane, so to speak, with no parachute and started to build on the way down. And this was before entrepreneurship was sexy. This is before,
Mm, mm,
um, you know, what do they call influencers and social media
mhm.
and all that? What it is today. So I got on, MySpace, Black Planet, College Club, Facebook when it was just dot edu.
Woo, boy, when I tell you, you are dating us, boy.
Yeah.
Woo, Black Planet, boy.
Yeah, and I started marketing this idea before it came to fruition, and there was just a lot of synergy behind it at the time, and it was during a time in culture where it wasn't really. I mean, people weren't really on that. I mean, it's like the music wasn't really on that, so I was trying to penetrate a market that I don't know if it was going to receive the messaging in terms of this new contemporary etiquette, this contemporary gentleman, this urban sophisticate. Um, but as I began the process, there was this shift, and it's something that God always does. He'll give me an assignment that doesn't seem like it'll be received. It doesn't seem like culture or society or the world at large will receive this thing, but he slides me right in the perfect moment where a window opens up, and now this is suddenly a new, idea that is potentially going to be received. It's at the time where 50 Cent started wearing suits, where Neo came out with the Year
Mm,
of the Gentleman album, um, where GQ and all these publications started to showcase Jay-Z and all these other people in a different light, more as entrepreneurs, more as businessmen, when the language started to shift and we stopped calling women bees. And there was just this thing happening, and he sat me right in there, and he keeps to this day doing that, where it's like right before a thing or it doesn't quite seem ready yet, he'll put me in there and stir up the pot and set me up for success as long as I honor the assignment, you know what I mean? So I got in at just the right time when society opened up to be receptive to a message like
mm,
etiquette.
mhm. Which is actually really fascinating because you have been part of what I would consider to be the transition in understanding of what it means to be an urban man. I mean,
Mhm.
that to have been a part of that before social media, before virality, means that you had to literally build an infrastructure from the ground up. And I'd love for you to share because I've talked to some people. I was actually talking to a friend today, and so she got an invitation. She loves the Lord. She has a show, and she got an
Mhm.
invitation to go to a really exclusive event, and it's for a really popular television show that does not honor God at all,
Mhm.
but it's a good opportunity for her to make some connections and things like that. And so she was kind of going back and forth, like, man, should I do it? Should I not do it? I know I should be at light and dark places, but does that mean that I'm compromising? And as you're building this infrastructure, I'm curious, how were you able to integrate your faith into that process? And what did that look like? Did you find yourself having to compromise or were you able to just be authentically yourself? What did that look like?
So I've been an authentic version of myself for quite some time. I
Mm,
discovered who I am probably like 8th grade, 7th going to
Wow.
8th grade, where I think a lot of times maybe, in college people find themselves, or maybe like later on in adulthood, or 40 or something like that. And of course we evolve and we have, there's levels to it, right? But I
Yeah.
kind of had a firm understanding of like how I'm going to show up, who I am early in a season when, or an era when like it wasn't accepted. You know what I mean? Like you have one earring, somebody's gonna be looking at you crazy, let alone two. You got like a certain haircut, or you dress a certain way, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
California is a little bit more like accepting, so to speak, but coming to college in Florida was a whole different thing.
Hey, listen, I'm inserting myself in this conversation for just a minute because if you're enjoying this conversation and if you enjoy the many conversations that I host through my podcast, I want to invite you to join me for my free virtual masterclass, How to Bounce Back Better. My mission in life is to help you and people like you discover the power within you to not just go through stuff, not just survive, but I want you to learn how to grow through stuff, how to thrive. How to Bounce Back Better is an hour-long virtual masterclass, and I offer multiple sessions every single week. If you want to register, all you have to do is head over to nonajones.com, and you will see a big link, a big button that says free masterclass. Just click the button, and you can sign up today. I want to see you in the next masterclass because I promise you there are tools, tactics, strategies, and tips that have helped me build resilience that I want to give to you. So again, head over to nonajones.com to click the big free masterclass button and get signed up today. All right, now back to the conversation.
Talking through it now, it's funny how God will prepare you for things that you don't even know why or what it is, but like how all these things work together in his tapestry and is so perfectly woven. Then in retrospect, when you look back, you're like, oh, that's why I did this thing, or that's why I'm like this, or that's why my mom accidentally walked into this class in college when she was attempting to go to another class where she met my father, where she ended up staying in that class and, getting this degree, which she then came home and fed us as kids these learnings, which established our understanding of the English language, which further helped
Mhm.
develop me as a writer. Like all of these, the perfect tapestry. But um, it looking back, it's like I've always been prepared to kind of show up as is and be authentic. So that always came with me. So when it comes to faith and how I show up with my faith, I knew that that couldn't be compromised. So I showed up with it, but it was watered down to me now looking back at it, knowing what God was calling me to, which is what I'm stepping further into these days where there is no compromise. But
Yes.
I would show up, right? Like, I mean, my books, I mean, what I would love is when I would get feedback from people that said, I love how you have like Bible quotes in here. It doesn't feel like it's over my head. It's not a Bible book, but it's like casually put in there as if, it's just a part of the lifestyle that you live.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it is, right? Like, certainly not perfect by any means, but this is what I believe.
Mhm.
And I carried faith with me and I was intentional because there was like this conviction and this voice in my spirit, the voice of God. There was, it's constant. It's kind of like, continue to roll with me, son. Continue to speak my name in rooms. Continue to just be honest and authentic about what it is that's actually happening here. This
Yeah.
relationship. Don't act like this ain't what it is. And I will continue to um, enlarge your territory. I
Yeah.
will continue to, not for the sake of like ego or for the sake of gluttony, but for the sake of a vehicle for more people to get to know and see and view the goodness of God, right? The goodness of Him,
Mhm.
goodness of. So, and it was tough. Like sometimes you get caught up in those things along the journey. Sometimes you do conflate the things, and it feels like you kind of want to take dominion and
Yep.
take um credit, you know what I mean, for some of the blessings, but I always brought faith with me in the room. I remember being at a book signing at a club, because I would go where the people are. It
Mhm.
was a club, but it wasn't a club night. It was actually a tech night, and there were a bunch of black tech giants in the room from the Bay Area. black tech event, and they wanted me to speak, right? And I'm like, why am I in this? I always end up in spaces where it's like, why am I here? Like, I'm not like, it's like, this was before my startup ventures and all that. It's like, what am I in this? Why am I in this text? I'm an author,
Yeah.
like I talk about etiquette and relationships and love and, people. Um, but I was in the room. So I was like, okay, well, what is my assignment here? And I remember kind of veering off from script and really just kind of talking about like how I got here and the power of God in my life. And I remember looking in the audience and it looked like church. But as I
Mm.
was speaking, I was like, I'm in a club. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like a DJ
Mhm.
is gonna come on after all of these speeches and stuff. And um it really just reaffirmed and put the light in me that um, you got to keep on showing up as is. You have to keep on showing up as is. And I remember a time when that we're in now where we're being ushered into this moment. And I could sense and feel that we're going to enter a season where truth was going to be denied,
Mm.
where truth was going to be watered down, where, you know, it's easier to say God than Jesus. It's easier
Yeah.
to say God than Christ. It's easier to say God than Yahweh, Yeshua, Elohim,
Yeah.
right? Like it's easier to that starts to get confusing for people. It's easier to make people feel comfortable um, in order to continue to occupy these spaces. And that became very, very, very conflicting. And
Mhm.
I had to kind of sit down for a minute and figure out how I'm going to show up because I can't show up if I'm not going to show up authentically. And, these days I just kind of got out of a season where I took a break, a timeout after the transition of my mother and father. And this elevation for me in my positioning, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
43 years old. My father's in heaven now. So what does that mean for me? I've elevated in terms
Mhm.
of the family tree. My
Yeah.
posture is different. The expectations are different. So what is expected of me in this season? And as I look around, I see truth is not accepted, and opinion is are flying, and camouflage is truth and people are just kind of accepting anything. I'm also seeing the craving for truth, right? At the same time as this rejection, there's this craving for it. It's evident in the rejection of it that people actually desire it. I'm seeing people searching, right? People see destruction and confusion. I see people searching and hungry.
Yeah.
People see destruction. I see restoration and revival. This is just the beginning stages of it, right? Like when a building is being constructed, developed, you can't tell whether it's being destroyed or built, right? Especially in the beginning
Yeah.
stages. And I think we're in a season of restoration and healing. It just looks messy before it gets beautiful. And I know that leaders and those who are on assignment and those who have the privilege of understanding the assignment are being called. And there is no like kowtowing. There is no tucking your tail. There is no trying to make people feel cozy. There's there's
Mhm.
there's truth, and truth is truth, whether it's accepted or denied.
Yeah.
And yes, there is a way, as it says in Proverbs, to deliver truth in order for it to be received. And I'm gonna have a podcast called The Quiet Truth, like that. I wasn't interested in doing.
Yeah.
Right, like I wasn't interested in writing the first, second, or third book. Right, like the
Mhm.
God puts me in these assignments, um, and I surrender to the assignment, to God in the assignment, not the assignment by itself. And He continues to align and show me favor. And I know that there's provision and protection on the journey. So there's no fear. It's just a matter of really accepting and surrendering to what God is saying. And I'm in a season where I'm not quiet at all. I mean, I'm amplifying um what it is that God is doing in my life, how he's revealing himself to me, the miracles, the many miracles that he shows up with and delivers. And I can't have a conversation without talking about God. Whether I'm in
Mhm.
Starbucks, whether it's a 2-minute conversation, it's who I am.
Yeah.
It's the part like I was on the floor last night praying. I was in my word this morning as I am every morning. And then the world sees me. They don't know that they have no idea. I'm like, tears may fall in worship. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really doing my best. And it's not even about performance, it's about my
Yeah.
desire. I really desire my desire is to be even closer. Like there is no moment where I'm gonna be like, all right, this is close enough. I'm good. Like
Right.
I consistently desire proximity to God and closeness to God, and He's there. So it's just about what's my position and posture. If he is not leaving me or forsaking me. He's actually present. If I don't feel that presence, I have to question what I'm doing wrong, and I need to adjust. So that's like the constant daily goal. Just to be closer, just to be close to you, just to
Mhm.
be close to you.
Yes. This is first of all, this is so rich to me because I think when God when God gives us the privilege, and I consider it a privilege, when he gives us the privilege to represent him in dark spaces, I think there's 2 things involved with that. One is the fact that God is calling you to it lets you know that he actually trusts you to steward it. And that is a weight that I think we sometimes don't
Yeah.
actually understand. Is like we allow the enemy to make us think, "Oh, they won't hear anything you have to say, they don't even want you here." Like we allow the lies of the enemy to cause us to shrink down when in fact God has called us to that place because he trusts us to represent him there. So that is something that I keep in mind all the time. I'm curious, how do you because when you're in these spaces with people who maybe sometimes they may even be hostile to faith, right? They don't wanna have the conversation. You yourself, because you are being authentically who you are as a man of God, you're in that space representing the Lord. How have you learned to navigate that? Because I think people like the culture, they love success. We're gonna celebrate
Mhm.
success. But when it comes to faith, specifically Jesus, and I think you made a great point that people love to talk about God. But when you start to talk about Yahweh,
Say
now we
what?
got we say who now we're
Yeah.
putting a name. Now we have a little bit of a challenge. So how do you navigate that tension of you're in this space to represent the Lord? How do you do it practically? How do you have these conversations with people who maybe they're like, look, I don't want all this. How do you do that?
I do my best. Like the word says, like all of these things, all these commandments, and it says, "In the greatest of these is love." Because you're not
Yeah.
gonna reach people like I'm not gonna reach you trying to quote Bible verses and all that. Like there is a way, and also it's not my responsibility. Like I'm not your savior. All I am is literally a reflection of His goodness. And how am I a reflection of His goodness and His light? Because I am so not deserving of it. I am such on my human fleshly side, like I am all of us, we're just these. I mean, we're part of this world, right? Like
Yeah.
we're in this world, but not of it, right? But that's when you're delivered and saved. But I am by myself, like, and it says in the word, you're nothing. You know what I'm saying? You're a
Yep.
mist. You're not gonna be. Everyone's talking about legacy. Like, what do you mean legacy? We don't. There's who knows how long this world has been around, right? Like, we could have millions and millions and billions of years of history that we just don't know. And I'm sure there were important people in that time that we have no idea existed, right? So I think
Mhm.
we over-index on this like legacy conversation. It almost sometimes feels idolatrous. Um, but for me, I do my best to reveal the truth that is in me through the love that I give. And the
Yeah.
love that I give is coming from a place that is not expecting a thing. Because love is not like based on
Right.
reciprocity. It
Right.
just is, right? Like I always say, there's nothing you can do about love. It's gonna overwhelm you. It's going to light you up. It's going to make you fall to your knees. And whatever you do to it, it's gonna do what it came to do. It doesn't matter if you hate it. It doesn't matter if you're sad. It's going to overwhelm you and eventually get in there and be and expand. And it's ever expansive there is no. It's like bottomless, right? There is no pit. There is no ground, no floor to love, and no ceiling. So I do my best to operate in that. And it's easy to do when, you have relationships that are, at a distance. They're not necessarily, it's harder to do with like your children or your spouse, because those are the
Yes.
people that know you most. Those are your mirrors that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Um, and people that need love the most show it in the most unloving ways. So to me, those are like signals that I'm supposed to show up. Anytime I feel like I've been played, anytime I feel like somebody tried me, because I got it in me to like be the opposite. You know what I mean? Like I know you
Yes.
just we got it in us if
Yes.
right, we've lived those lives. However, I always see those as like prompts from God, from the Holy Spirit. It's like, all right, here's who you say you are, here's who you say you're trying to be it. Here's the perfect opportunity. So anytime I encounter people, and I'm also quite sensitive spiritually, so I could kind of feel empathetically, like just regardless of what somebody's presenting to me, I can kind of maybe feel what's actually going on, and I
Yeah.
respond to it. I remember a time, there's been plenty of these times in my life, but there was a concert I went to, Essence Festival.
Mhm.
It's in the front row. Um, who was on? It was what's this guy's name from Chicago? I can't even remember. Chance the Rapper.
Mhm.
And walk into the seats, and everybody was standing, and there was a lady sitting. I was trying to get past her, like, pardon me. And she said, "Oh yeah, excuse me." And I was about to walk on. I said, "Do you mind if I pray for you?" It was like, what?
Yeah.
Even as I said it, I was like, what? And she said, please. As soon as I put my hand, started praying, she just starts pouring, crying, weeping,
Wow.
letting me know that her husband had recently passed. They were supposed to be there together.
Mm.
She came anyway. To just long, long story, but the conviction and the prompting, um, giving love in a moment where I'm just trying to, go have a have a good time and
Yeah.
get out of that space. It's just a reminder. I think people over index also on purpose, and they think that their purpose only lies in their position, their career. Like when they clock out a job, out of work, like there goes my purpose. Like
Mhm.
nah, your purpose is happening all the time. You're breathing, inhaling, and exhaling for a reason, and that reason can be implemented wherever you are, whoever you're with. So whether you're speaking one to many through a book, one to millions, thousands on a stage, or whatever through a podcast, uh, the intention is the same. That love is the same. So I've learned early to kind of to show up as is, and now for me, as is means in love, and I do my best to um, prepare to show up that way because I'm a human and I have my own
Mhm.
flaws, and I have to like prepare to show up in love. I can't just speak it and all of a sudden I'm showing up that way. I have to do things in the morning time. I have to, in the quiet time, get these quiet wins that nobody sees.
Mhm.
Me restraining and not like cussing someone out, or those quiet wins that nobody knows but me and God. I work on those things daily. That's how I show up in love.
Yes. Man, listen, this first of all, I think this has been such just a masterclass in how to bring your faith into every space that you occupy. It's not just about what we do even outside of our home. It's about in the home being a man of faith, being a woman of faith, so that when the Lord calls you to spaces outside of the home, you're taking who you already were into
Hmm.
those spaces. And I just appreciate you for being willing to even give everybody a window into how you live your life privately so that they can then match what it looks like to live that way publicly. And my prayer is that God will continue to enlarge your territory for his glory, because you're already doing it. And you're already being an example of what I believe is an important scripture. I wanted to share with everybody Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16, which tells us, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." What came to mind for me as I was listening to you, Anytime, is there's going to be people that when you get to heaven, there are going to be people that you didn't even realize that your life affected, that you will only find out in eternity.
Hmm.
And that is, to me, the greatest reward. So I thank you for spending this time with us. For everybody watching, take it from his example. God is not just calling you to take up space, he's actually calling you to take territory. Be a light in that space for his glory. And if nobody has told you this today, please know God loves you, and so do I. And we'll see you next time.